What is up, everybody? Hola, ¿cómo estás? Woohoo, you guys made it. Congratulations. Guess what? Every single thing you did in your life, every breath you took, every decision you made, every single thing got you here, right now, right here, with all of us Bitcoiners on a mission. We are heart-centered, mission-driven Bitcoiners. We are going to be rocking this. I'm so honored to get to be here. My name's DJ Valerie B. Love, and I get the privilege and honor of presenting all of the wonderful Bitcoiners here who are changing the world with their unique gifts. And our first, I'm so grateful, Chris Hunter. He is the co-founder of Agaloy and the Bitcoin Beach wallet. And he is going to be talking about the comeback country of El Salvador. So please welcome Chris Hunter to the stage. Let's go, Chris, woohoo!
Good morning, El Salvador. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
That was Macklemore in the background, if you could hear it. It's supposed to be a little bit higher energy. Welcome to Adopting Bitcoin 2022, the second annual Lightning Summit in El Salvador. I'll confess, when we organized this last year, we had no intention of making it an annual, but it was such a success we had to do it again. My name is Chris Hunter. You can find me on Twitter at BTCNYC. I would like to speak to you this morning about forgiveness. Forgiveness is a universal concept. It exists in most every society and culture since the dawn of time. As you would guess, I would also like to talk to you this morning about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is also universal. It's an open monetary network. If you're a human being with a computer and an internet connection, you can participate. Bitcoin is also a trust machine. And what I mean by that, it allows two people who don't know each other, who don't necessarily trust each other, to communicate and exchange monetary value with no entity in between, no company, no government, and this has profound implications for humanity. For many centuries, the church was the most powerful entity in human society. It was the centralizing force. And my country, the United States, was founded in part on this notion of separating church from the state. With Bitcoin, for the first time in the modern era, we at least have the possibility of separating money from state, and this has profound implications. It clearly has profound implications for the unbanked, the billions of people around the world who either don't have access to modern financial services or are underserved in that respect. What a lot of people don't realize is Bitcoin is also tremendously important in the developed world, for those of us who do have the privilege of accessing the banking system and modern financial products. 2022 has been, shall we say, a dynamic year. There's a lot of things that happened. I told myself this morning that I was not going to say the F word, but I couldn't resist. In all seriousness, for the points I want to highlight here, FTX isn't really that interesting. What SBF and his cronies did was malfeasant, right? People say Bitcoin isn't regulated around the world. Bitcoin is regulated in many ways. And what happened at FTX, there was theft, there was fraud, right? As far as I can see, there's laws in most every country around the world against theft and fraud. It has nothing to do with cryptocurrency in terms of what went wrong at FTX. So let's talk about some examples that are actually a little bit more interesting. Let's talk about PayPal. PayPal is a very successful company, a $100 billion financial services firm based in the United States. A couple months ago, they effectively threatened their own user base with a $2,500 fine if a user posted what the company in its sole discretion deemed to be misinformation. I don't know how you would interpret that, but for me that seems a bit Orwellian, a bit dystopian, especially coming from a company based in the United States of America. Let's talk about privacy and Celsius. This is a picture of Alex Mashinsky, the CEO and founder of Celsius. He's wearing a very nice t-shirt. The t-shirt says, "Banks are not your friends." Quite interestingly, Alex created a bank. That bank failed its customers in many ways. One of the ways in which it failed its customers is it doxed all of them. In its current bankruptcy proceeding, it publicly disclosed the given legal name of every customer, and it actually disclosed the association of each of those customers with every single transaction that went through its platform. Not necessarily ideal if you want to keep your financial business private, as you should have the right to do. And let's talk about Canada. Here you have a picture of the esteemed Prime Minister Trudeau. Earlier this year in February, the Prime Minister labeled his own peacefully protesting citizens, people who did nothing to break the law, as terrorists. And moreover, he deplatformed, against their will, these so-called terrorists from the banking system, even though they did nothing wrong. PayPal, Celsius, Canada. These are just a few of the recent examples from the current year, 2022, why Bitcoin is important for everybody around the world, why we need unseizable, uncensorable, hard money. We came to El Salvador more than 2 years ago in the summer of 2020, and we built a wallet. It's really a community banking platform called the Bitcoin Beach Wallet, which started in El Zante, grew around the country, and eventually achieved worldwide media acclaim, which helped, in small part, to lead to the first country in the world adopting Bitcoin as legal tender. Now, the Bitcoin story here in El Salvador, it's still very much early days. We don't know how the story is going to play out. There's many chapters in this book yet to be written. Some people talk about the possibility of El Salvador becoming the Singapore of Latin America, and that would be amazing if that actually comes to pass. And in my travels, people invariably ask me, Hunter, what country is next? Who is going to follow El Salvador's lead in adopting Bitcoin as legal tender? And to be honest with you, I don't think that's a very interesting question. And in fact, I think it might very well be a distraction, to put it politely. And I'll tell you why I think that by way of historical comparison. So I have a question for the audience. Operation Berkshire. Who here in the audience knows what Operation Berkshire was? Raise your hand if you do. I might be missing something. I don't see a single hand raised, which would have been my expectation. So Operation Berkshire was an organized conspiracy. It was started in 1976 by the CEOs of the largest tobacco companies in the world, people who make cigarettes. And this actually has its foundation in the 1940s. Since basically the end of World War II, the tobacco companies around the world knew unequivocally, they had scientific evidence that if you smoke cigarettes, it was going to kill you. It gives you cancer, gives you heart disease. The nicotine that they put in cigarettes is highly addictive. And so Operation Berkshire started in 1976, and the tobacco companies worldwide never came out and said, smoking doesn't cause cancer, because they knew that would be an outright lie, and they didn't want to be caught in that respect. So what did? They simply raised a question around the matter. They said, do we really know if nicotine's that addictive? Do we know if smoking really gives you the bad kind of cancer, right? And all that BS stopped in 1994. These are the 7 dwarves, as they were named, the 7 CEOs of the leading American tobacco companies at the time. And they were forced to testify in person in front of US Congress that they've been lying the whole time, that they knew scientifically back in 1945 that smoking unequivocally will kill you. And the insight here is, for decades, they created a campaign of uncertainty and doubt around tobacco. They didn't need to deny the truth, they just needed to raise a question around that. And we know that playbook as FUD. That playbook has been run against the industry, the Bitcoin industry, for the last 10 years, and you can rest assured powerful interests will continue to run that playbook against us for the decades to come. We've seen it in the tobacco industry and many other sectors as well. Why? Because Bitcoin is a global threat. And if Bitcoin is a global threat, it begs the question, who is it a threat against? Well, it's quite simple. It's a threat against the people who control the existing banking and government sector. Here we have Jamie Dimon. Jamie Dimon is the CEO and chairman of JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest banks in the world. Jamie Dimon is a very smart guy. He understands Bitcoin full well. Jamie Dimon will publicly decry Bitcoin, speak badly about it in the press, while simultaneously selling it to their private wealth clients behind closed doors and creating derivative products so their trading business and asset management business can make more money. He is not an ally to us. Here we have Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler is the current chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission in the US and has naked ambition to become the next Treasury Secretary of the US. Gary Gensler is also a very smart guy. He taught a course on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency at MIT, one of the leading universities in the world, Gary is also not an ally to our industry. Here we have Klaus Schwab. Kind of looks like Dr. Evil. If you're not familiar, he is the head of the World Economic Forum. Klaus brazenly brags in public, in videos, you can find this on the internet, that WEF, to use his word, has penetrated the cabinets of governments around the world, probably his most notable protege being the esteemed Prime Minister of Canada, Trudeau. And then, of course, we have Augustin. If you're not familiar with Mr. Carstens, he is the chairman of the Bank of International Settlements, the central bank of central banks. You know, the simulation that we all jointly live in here is quite amazing. There's a reason why this gentleman looks like Jabba the Hutt. He is truly the final boss. All of these guys and their cronies, they are protecting the closed, permissioned, discriminatory financial system, and they will use the playbook of FUD for the decades ahead. But all is not dire. There is hope. There is a possibility of a bright orange future on this new open source money. But there is a catch. What is the catch? Well, the catch is we need to build it. It's not going to happen by itself. And so I have a question for you all in the audience. This is my final question. My question is this: are you going to ask for permission? Do you really think gentlemen like this are going to say, hey, you know what, we're going to allow Bitcoin to become legal tender in a second country and a third country, and therefore you can go forth as you see fit? I don't think that's going to happen. So what's the alternative? Well, we need to build. We've been building here in El Salvador. So I say to you, let us continue to build in El Salvador. And let's build in Costa Rica, and Mexico, and Venezuela. And you know what? We should build in South Africa. And let's build in Nigeria. And let's build in Egypt. And let's build in India, and Vietnam, and Philippines. Why? Because once that happens, once we get a circular Bitcoin economy going, not just in El Zante, not just in El Salvador, but worldwide, once we've done that, we've already won. And once we've won, we won't need to ask for permission, because we can simply and with humility ask for forgiveness. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy your 3 days here. I hope to meet every one of you. Go forth and build.
Right on. Well done, my friend. OMG.